ideal is that you do your own bookkeeping to the point when you can then delegate it well. And you need to check the work of the people doing it for you. And that's where we come back to our profit and loss statement, and more importantly, our balance sheet. A lot of people will ignore the balance sheet, but over and over again, it's like the universe is like punching me going, you have to talk about the balance sheet. Do enough of it to be in touch with it, and then to be able to delegate so that you can check. You must check what's happening.
Welcome to today's episode. I'm really looking forward to this conversation. Now, I'm going to say I'm really looking forward to it. We're talking about numbers. And for anyone that is in my world that listens to this podcast knows I don't love talking about numbers. But the reason I've invited Liz onto the show is that her and I connected over a topic that I'm really passionate about. And that's that you do need to know your numbers. However, a lot of people are really ashamed, embarrassed. They have a lot of anxiety around not knowing what this actually means, even just the word knowing your numbers. So Liz is going to break this all down for us today. She is the author of Financial Rebellion. And Liz, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Sam. I'm really proud of having written Financial Rebellion because it is all about overcoming that anxiety that business owners have around their numbers. Their numbers are actually the story of their business, but accounting is letting us down today. The accountants don't walk you through your numbers anymore. And so you have to take a step of curiosity into those numbers so that you can know how your business is really performing.
Absolutely. You and I were having a conversation before I hit record, and you asked me about what accounting was like back when I first opened my business in 94 compared to what it is now. And my answer even surprised me because I actually hadn't even thought about it. The fact that we used to sit down for an entire day with our accountant every year, and we would chat to him through the year as well. And now my accountant gets grumpy if I want to ask him a question for 10 minutes. Like, what has gone wrong? Am I the only one, or is this what's happened in the whole of the accounting world?
This is the story of the Australian accounting world. Australian tax is actually more complex than most parts of the world, I discovered. And our accountants are caught, and bookkeepers are caught up in this ATO compliance quagmire. And they just no longer want to come out from behind the desk and talk to you, which is, I guess, my point of difference in my mentoring. It's all about you, an accountant that cares about you and your numbers accountant. As an accountant, I know how important it is that you understand that story of your business and that you also understand how to get those numbers right, because when whoever's processing the stuff in whichever software it is, if there's problems in that processing, it's going to cost you a fortune for that accountant to, behind the scenes, unravel it all and get it right. And so I'm really passionate about the day-to-day understanding enough to know if the things are getting done correctly, and also understanding that it's a story of your business, and we can dissolve that anxiety that everybody feels by allowing curiosity to come in.
I love that. Now, you talk about fighting for financial power, and there was something that I picked up in your book. You said that financial power has been stolen by the status quo and the ATO.
Yeah.
Can you explain what that means?
Yeah, so the status quo today is what I was just talking about, where accountants aren't really able to spend very much time with you. And so the banter that doesn't happen. There's another piece of the status quo, which is the way that the computer programs work today. So back in the 90s, and I like that we've got this little connection, we can go back to how it was and come forward to how it is. Back in the 90s, you had to write checks when you paid your bills.
Yeah.
So you had some connection with the process, and you had to kind of close off your books once a month and then roll over to the next month. So, you know, I know that your husband had businesses as well at that time. So there would have been a real connection with what was going on and a level of rhythm and routine that went on as well. And then those things needed to get processed. Fast forward to today, we have Xero, etc. And the way that those programs get your information is they import it from the bank. So we have these bank feeds. The information goes to the thing, it all gets bottled around. A fair bit of AI goes on, and if you haven't been controlling that AI, it will get it wrong. And so we've taken the power of the business owner to go, well, these are all the things that are happening, and this is how I want to treat them. These are the categories I want them to be. And then suddenly given a lot of that to automation, to AI, to external bookkeepers. External bookkeepers were not common back then. They've become common because we tend to mess it up a little bit if we try to do it ourselves. And unfortunately, that has changed from helping you structure your business and understand your business to unraveling your garbage that's in your system, and that's what you end up paying for. So that's kind of the status quo. And then the ATO part has also, that compliance level of ATO has also got more and more complex, taking the accountants away from what used to be about serving you.
You mentioned just then about bookkeepers, and it wasn't as, most of us did our own bookkeeping and now most people don't. And I'm really interested that you've brought this up because I want to ask your opinion on this. I'm a big proponent of delegation.
Yes.
I honestly think that business owners do too much. However, I actually still do my own books.
Excellent.
It's something that I didn't want to do, but at the same time, it helps me to really understand what's going in and out of my business. I don't want someone else to do it because I want to know my numbers. What's your thoughts about that? Because I often flip of like, oh, should I be using that time to do, have a bookkeeper do it? Or not that I want to hand it over, because as much as I hate doing it, and I really do hate doing it, I feel like it gives me a better idea of what's going on. Things like I can have a look as I'm putting in my BAS. Oh, I actually don't need that subscription anymore. Or I didn't realize that person had deducted that amount twice, or whatever it is. Like, I'd love your thoughts around this.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting division. We need to be very careful. So a lot of coaches will coach business owners to say, delegate what you're not good at. So focus on what you're good at, delegate everything else. And that's probably very valid, and what is very valid. But there is a difference between delegation and abdication. Too often, accounting's being abdicated. So there's the assumption that the other person knows better than you do. I'll just give it to them and they will look after it. But let me give you an example, an extreme example of where that can go wrong. So in Better Business Decisions, I mentor business owners. I jump on Zoom like this. We open their books at their end, and I help them to overcome that fear, start to get curious, and start to have a look around. This client came to me in crisis, to be honest. They had delegated / abdicated everything to an accountant. They had a very successful multi-million-dollar business in the NDIS space, which is a very complex space, and gave that all to the accountant. The problem was the accountant wasn't doing it. I think the accountant became overwhelmed as well. And so this business owner was suddenly stuck with the realization that I thought everything was being looked after. I'm paying money to this person, they must be doing something. And in fact, things hadn't been done. VASs hadn't been done, superannuation hadn't been paid. A whole lot of stuff had not been done. And this person ended up with lots of fines. So as I started working with them, trying to work out, well, what was being done and what wasn't being done, we found all sorts of problems in the bookkeeping that had been done. We found all sorts of problems and in fact, we even found a fraud. So that's the extreme of abdication, where you go, okay, I'm going to get someone else to do it, but you're not buying into, or you're not engaged with them. And this accountant was probably like the one you're describing. And any more than 10 minutes on the phone, go away.
Mm.
And so pushing back when she's asking, she wasn't completely not trying to get to the bottom of it. She was actively trying to do it, but they were just not doing what they should have done. So that's one really bad extreme. The ideal is that you do your own bookkeeping to the point when you can then delegate it well. And you need to check the work of the people doing it for you. And that's where we come back to our profit and loss statement, and more importantly, our balance sheet. A lot of people will ignore the balance sheet, but over and over again, it's like the universe is like punching me, going, you have to talk about the balance sheet. And in the book, I talk about Hercules and a scenario where the super hadn't been paid, but no one was looking at the balance sheet when they should have been, and they would have noticed. So as you start out, doing your own bookkeeping is really the sensible thing to do, because you get a feel for it. If you're really tiny, even if just writing it in an exercise book gives you a connection with it, and then you can give that to the accountant later or a bookkeeper. But do enough of it to be in touch with it, and then to be able to delegate, so that you can check. You must check what's happening. Now, very few business owners are, which actually means there's so much resource wasted because things are not being done correctly, and then they're not being corrected, and then you actually don't really know how your business is going. So does that answer the question?
Yeah, it does. So when you say, as the business owner, we need to check the work, what exactly are we checking?
We're checking that it makes sense. And it feels wrong to check your accountant or your bookkeeper, but there is a simple starting process, which is to look at your balance sheet. So on a simple balance sheet, all you're really going to have is a bank account. You might have some receivables or some payables. You might have some GST due to the tax office. Not very much going on. Later on, you might have cars in there and things like that. But looking at that balance sheet, and you can, in most of the programs, Xero in particular, you can look at it with a few different months there, so you've got some comparisons. If bookkeeping is being done incorrectly, for example, you're just getting your invoices, you're not really sure how to get the invoices matched up and all of that sort of stuff, there'll start being this sort of pollution on the balance sheet. There'll be payables that aren't payable, and there'll be receivables that aren't receivable. That's a sign that the job's not being done fully correctly. And what we're really looking for is just the beginning, the opening of a conversation with whoever's doing that for you. So it might be a friend doing your bookkeeping, but they don't really know what they're doing. I've seen plenty of that. It might be a bookkeeper doing it, but also look really carefully at what's going on in your drawings account or your loan account, whatever it's labeled, which is the money that you might be putting in or taking out of the business. That part's really important, because what I find in there is that bookkeepers are putting things to personal that are not personal. So it sounds a little bit crazy, but all I'm encouraging is a level of curiosity. So even if you get in a little rhythm and routine of once a month after bookkeeping's done, or if some people's is only done quarterly, but I would encourage you to have it done monthly, have a look at the balance sheet and at the P&L and ask them questions about what's there. You can, if you're looking at it in Xero or MyOb or whatever, you can drill down into those things. So it's your business, it's your bookkeeping, that's your information. Know that it's okay to take a look around. You don't need to do any data entry, or if you are doing your own data entry, definitely go and look at these things, dig in, see if the right things are in the right places. It's all too easy in the bookkeeping to accept what the AI is telling you is right. So the good old green tick inside of Xero can be a little bit tempting. You really need to think about, where is this going to land in my profit loss and in my balance sheet?
Can you just explain to us, like we're 12-year-olds, what exactly a balance sheet is? Like, what's it telling us? What do we need to look for?
Yeah, so a lot of the time you'll be told that your balance sheet is a beautiful summary of your assets, your liabilities, and all the money that your business has ever made in the equity. It's not quite true. I don't want you to fully understand what's behind it and what it means. I mostly want it to be accurate.
Mm-hmm.
For a business owner, the accuracy of it is important, because when it's not accurate, that means the P&L is not accurate. So the balance sheet and the P&L work together. The P&L is the story of your business over a period of time. So it might be for a month or a quarter, and it's just a period of time. So the headings will often be for the month of. A balance sheet, on the other hand, is a snapshot at a point in time. So it is your bank balance as at that date. And that should be able to be the same as whatever you're seeing in your banking app. And if it's not, then something's not quite right about the system. And likewise, so there's your assets, which would be your bank accounts, your receivables if you're using the invoicing system, and then down in the liabilities, that's what you owe to other people. There would be accounts payable if you're using the bills in the system. There would be some GST that you owe to the ATO, pay as you go that you owe to the ATO, things like the things that you owe, the loans you might have had. You might have a little loan from Prosper or someone, or bigger loans. The accuracy of all of that is imperative because say the Prosper loan, if the interest in that hasn't been treated correctly, it won't be showing up as an expense on your P&L. So I don't expect business owners to get it all perfect, but what I want them to do is take the curiosity to find out what isn't right. So, and that's what happens always when I first work with a business owner and we're together in their financial data. At first, they think they can't understand anything, but very rapidly, we're looking at things that go, what's that? Why is that? And that's when the anxiety dissipates, the curiosity kicks in, and then we start to explore. That's when we find that, oh, okay, so your bookkeeper thinks we should be doing this way, or you've been raising invoices in your system and then just doing received money on the other side. So the invoices that climbing up as an accounts receivable, what that actually means when you've done that incorrectly is that you've doubled the sales in your P&L. And that again is a common mistake. So what I want from the business owner as they start out is just that curiosity to go, why is that there? And is it right? And then over time, as you get more and more used to it, you'll be familiar with numbers and go, yep, that looks right, that looks right. Your ATO balances should be pretty much able to be, once you get the hang of things, agreed to the ATO if you've got a payment plan or something. But for example, if you've got a payroll system, you've got paying a couple of people or a lot of people, superannuation is a line, superannuation payable is a line in your balance sheet, and it will grow until you pay some super off, and then it'll come back down again. But if it's growing and growing, it shows you haven't been paying the super, or maybe you've been paying the super but applying it incorrectly over in the profit and loss statement. And then again, you will be showing double your superannuation expense because it should have come off in this balance sheet. So I think we can explain what a balance sheet is from a high level theoretical point of view, from an accounting point of view. But what I want business owners to understand is that the numbers in that balance sheet should be accurate to your level of understanding. And if they're not, then find out why. Superannuation payable shouldn't be growing if you have been paying your super. GST shouldn't be growing if you have been paying your GST as you do your BASs. There's a bit of laziness around this as well, but what that means is it disempowers the business owner. If the accountants are not doing those adjustments as part of the routine, then the business owner has no hope of understanding. And unfortunately, a lot of accountants will say, business owners don't understand the balance sheet, who cares? And in other extremes, what will happen is the tax accountants will do the financial statements. And there's a story about this in the book too. They'll do the financial statements, lodge your returns and everything, but not adjust your day-to-day software to indicate, for example, that superannuation story, to indicate, to make that correction in your system. So your system should reflect the balance sheet that's being prepared for the lodgement of the tax as well, in an ideal world. Obviously, the smaller the business, the less important it is, but still, just if you're doing your own books and you've got a balance sheet, have a look at it. If it's really simple, we should pretty much just have the bank account and not much else in there. And so if there are stray things in there, we want to address them quickly.
I love that you talk about curiosity, and I think that just in itself is empowering. Something that my husband and I talk about all the time is the fact that accountants go to university to essentially learn how to be accountants, yet at the end of the day, they send your tax through and go, well, it's got nothing to do with us. Whatever you sign, it's all to do with you. And we're like, well, hang on a minute. A business owner is meant to be going to university and doing accounting. Like, for me, I find it quite weird that they're the ones that know, but then they throw all of the
responsibility.
They responsibility back on the business owner. So I love it that you talk about the curiosity, and it's amazing how much confidence you can get from having that curiosity. Because when I think back, many, many years ago, probably around 10 years ago, I had a moment of like, oh my goodness, I'm no good at this. I can't do this. My bookkeeper offered to come to my house and have a look to see how I was doing everything. She watched me put my numbers into Xero. She saw the way that I filed everything. When she came in, I was like, oh my gosh, Alison, I'm so embarrassed to show you. This is how I do it. I've got no idea. And she looked through and she went, this is all perfect. This is all exactly how I would have told you to do it. And I was like, but if I hadn't have reached out to her, or she hadn't have said, why don't I do this to help you? I would never have even known. And I probably would have gone forward thinking I was no good at it, and actually found out that I had more idea than I thought I did. So I think that reaching out to people can give you more confidence than you ever even realized.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the collaboration. So when I talk about the arrows in my book, they're courage. So we get the courage to have a go and have a look. Then curiosity, we let curiosity start to take over. That gives you that confidence. Then the next one is collaboration. So that's what you did there. It's like, okay, now I'm ready to talk with someone. I guess that's where I come in with mentoring business owners online. And then the last one, but a very important one, is contemplation. And so contemplation is about looking at those numbers after they're completed. So actually I say that the business talks to you through the numbers. So sitting down with your business and having a listen by reading your P&L, reading your balance sheet. And they don't take long. But if you actually sit with them in that sort of mindfulness contemplation idea of, well, what is this telling me about my business? And so the business will talk to you through that contemplation space, like through the balance sheet, well, something's off here. Or through the P&L, oh, I didn't realize I was spending that much on that. Or, this is my bottom line. Is it enough for all, I'm giving this business? Is that profit sufficient to make up for what I'm giving up? So we see a lot of young mums start a business to try to contribute to the household, but it takes away from their time with and if that profit's not enough to warrant that, then it might not be a business that serves them, and the sooner they wrap it up the better. At one extreme, that's one of my passions, is let's not be in business if it does not serve us, and the answer to that is very quickly in the P&L. So courage, curiosity, and that confidence, allowing the collaboration. So do talk to your bookkeeper about how you're doing things, or as you work out who are the people in your team. Like, the bigger your business is, the more turnover it has, the more transactions it has, the more likely you should be delegating that to someone, or at least part of it. but never, as I said before, abdicate it. Part of delegation is checking. And so in the contemplation piece, when you look over those financials on a regular basis and just make sure that it's all stacking up and it makes sense, and that the business is serving you financially.
I really like the way that you've mapped those, let's call them the C's out. Contemplation, when you were talking that through, it made me realize that that particular phase is where I start to get excited about the numbers, because when you look at it, you realize how you're able to move them. And I don't mean to change them. I mean, you can look and go, what would happen if I just, put my price up by this much and over this many clients, what does that number then become? And that's just an example. There's like many, many, many different ways you can move those numbers. But I find the contemplation almost turns into a game for me, that
Yes.
it starts to get exciting when you realize, and I've never used this word for this topic, but it is actually really empowering. So I'm liking this conversation and where it's gone.
And exciting. I think I'm the only accountant in the world where when clients decide to come on board with me, they actually go, I'm really excited for this. It's like, yes, that's how it should be.
Yeah,
Excited
100%.
to find out about our numbers. Yeah, I mean, it's such a weird subject, know your numbers. Well, yeah, before we know our numbers, let's make sure our numbers are correct. Let's make sure that we understand how they're telling the story. There's a lot of, no, there's a lot of wank out there about numbers, right? There's a lot of
Yep.
numbers being bandied around about things. And first and foremost, they need to be correct. Then you can use, like they talk about metrics, what's your gross profit margin? What's this? What's that? None of those numbers are relevant until you understand the story they're telling you. And then you work out for yourself which numbers are relevant and how you can move them to improve your business. So don't get caught up in the sort of showy numbers about what's this and what's this. But the more I guess if you've got that anxiety around numbers, start with your own little story of your business. Start understanding that it's just telling a story. Get more comfortable with the fact that numbers are telling a story. The words in your profit and loss are very important. They've been, again, in that sort of stealing your power. A standard chart of accounts has got a set of words in it that they're a little bit outdated. So advertising, for example, is a line. Advertising and marketing, but we want more detail than that. We want to know what we're spending on our Facebook ads. We want to know subscriptions, for example. We might want them split out so that we know a bit more detail about it. So this getting familiar then enables us to move through to what you were just getting excited about. You can actually set budgets. People hate that word, but forecasts even. Once you get the hang of the story of the business, then the software's got built-in capacity to build budgets. You can just jump in there and project the story of the future of your business and do some of that tweaking. And again, you can't budgeting, even as accountants, we get worried about getting it wrong. But all I want for my clients is to have a go and see that is a way of projecting the future, and a way of contemplating the numbers a little bit more, and a way of engaging with your reality of your business and whether it's serving you. So the more you familiarize yourself with the numbers, let the business speak to you through the numbers, the more you can start to see what the future of the business looks like through the numbers. And you don't have to spend very much time at all, but a little bit often is the best way to work with your financial side of your business, so that you stay familiar, you're in the software, you're getting a feel of it, and then contemplating how it could be different, how it could be better.
Yeah, I love that. So your book, Financial Rebellion, I've read most of it. I haven't finished it, but it's very empowering. It very much takes away that shame and anxiety, right? You're putting it right out there, right from page one, that's what it's for. What inspired you to write it?
I guess it's a sense of humanity and my passion for business owners and how important business is in our world and how important that business, each business owner is in the patchwork or the tapestry that makes up our community. And I just see so much suffering, if you like, and so much waste. I just wanted to first of all, I wanted to uncover why we've got to this point where most business owners don't want to look at the numbers or don't have any idea about them. And how could I unpack that to a point where they were re-engaging? I'd had a high level sense that things were going wrong, but it took writing the book, and it took me a few years to get all the concepts into something readable. I just want to empower business owners. I guess it's that passion because everyone's important and every moment of everyone's life is important. And if they don't understand how their business is performing, then that's a problem for them and everyone around them. So even back on when I did my Possible campaign quite a few years ago, that was what really stuck with me at the time. It was like business failure. We just don't want any business failure that we can avoid, and the numbers is part of that. But even very successful businesses that are making good money, there is still a lot to be learned, a lot to understand about minimizing tax, about improving your systems, about making the business more profitable, everything from, just putting up prices when you think you can't. So my passion is around the numbers can help you have a better business and have a better life, and finding a way that made numbers like that process relatable to people been my work for the last 10 years or so, and then getting it into something readable. That's why I wrote.
Yeah, it's a very easy read. I totally suggest that everyone grabs a copy.
It's a real self-help book, don't you think, Sam? Like, having read it,
100%.
It's like a bit memoir, so you can get the context of where I'm coming from. I think some of the things in my family life mean that I see accounting or humanity from a different perspective, things about literacy, things about health and stuff like that. But my memoir puts my thinking about accounting in context and then brings it through to you to be able to help yourself get past the anxiety of numbers and into the understanding that it's just telling your story and then how you can improve that story.
Yeah, definitely. Like I said, it's an easy read, and it's written in a way where you don't feel like you're being spoken down to, which I feel like a lot of accountants, that's the way they speak, like, well, you're just the business owner that's got no idea kind of thing, and just do what I say. And this book is not that. So where can people go to get a copy of Financial Rebellion?
It's on Amazon, so just search even Financial Rebellion Liz Jarvis and Amazon will come up for you. So that's the best, easiest way to get it. There is a Financial Rebellion website where you can get a little bit of information about reading your balance sheet. And then Better Business Decisions is my mentoring practice. So that website, betterbusinessdecisions.com.au, on there, there's a free 15-minute chat with me. So even before you read the book, if you just want a little bit of reassurance, a little bit of courage, come and chat with me for 15 minutes and I'll help you get some context and let you pave the way for better financial understanding so that you and your business can improve.
I love it. Like I said at the beginning of this interview, a lot of people, and me included, can really shy away from doing, knowing the numbers or looking at the numbers, or it can be just something where you're like, oh, I don't want to do that today, or there can be shame around it. Whatever it is, I think, Liz, what you've done is to bring it out from under the rug, from where it's dark, into the light, and said, hey, it's actually not that bad. It's not as mysterious as people are making it out to be. And, just here it is. This is what you need to do. And it's just, I really love the book for that. So thank you for coming and sharing everything that you've shared today. And definitely, if you're listening, go grab a copy of that book, Financial Rebellion. I can't recommend it highly enough. And Liz, thanks so much for coming on the show.
Thanks so much for having me, Sam. It's great. I love your work. It's
Thank you.
you empower others, and I'm happy to be here empowering people around the financial side of things.
Love it.